Hi, I'm Evelyn Linwood. Welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new here, welcome. You may notice it is a little darker than I normally film because I normally film during the day and it's nighttime. Well, not that nighttime. It's like not even 7, but today's video is around the idea of de-influencing writing. If you're not familiar with the idea of de-influencing, it's a trend I've seen online, and I'm sure I'm way behind this trend because I don't have TikTok and I don't spend as much time on social media as I used to. But I have seen it on YouTube. And basically the idea is, we're online so much these days. Not everyone and not uniformly, but a lot of people are online a lot, probably more than we realize. We're seeing advertisements constantly, and some of those are coming from kind of people you might have a parasocial relationship with, however healthy or not that is. So all these influencers on the internet have all these kind of tools and tips and tricks, and sometimes they want to sell you stuff. And sometimes they're just looking for content, so they're trying out all the different tools. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. It's just that it can get to a point where it's kind of intimidating to start a hobby, whether creative or otherwise. So for those of you who are interested in writing or are already writing, or even those of you who want to be professional authors, I'd just like to do this video today to kind of emphasize to you that all of those tools and stuff are not necessary. You can write with almost nothing. All it really takes is your mind and a way to get your words out there. So that may be something as simple as just Microsoft Word. It may be something like a pen and paper and then type it up at a library if you don't have a computer for some reason. The first novel that I fully drafted, which isn't the first one I published, it's still unpublished, but that's a tale for another day. It was actually Project King. I wrote the first draft on an iPad, which was like an older iPad, and I wrote it on, I think it was just the basic pages that came with the iPad. So I had a little keyboard to go with it. I wasn't just like, I had a keyboard. But that was it, because I didn't have a computer. That was all I had access to. And believe me, it was kind of a pain to transfer later, but I figured it out. I am not that great with tech. At least not naturally, although I'm definitely learning. Yeah, so today I want to go over a few different categories of kind of tools that you hear about writers using, or that kind of thing. I will go through kind of pros and cons of using them. I'm not going to get super specific, but it'll be by category. So the first category is analog tools. This is stuff like sticky notes, poster boards, note cards, even pen and paper. So I would consider the pros of that to be all about how it helps to physically manipulate your story, especially if you're a planner or if you get stuck. So I know a lot of people swear by sticky notes, or like they put sticky notes on poster boards and move it around, and some people do the same thing with note cards. Honestly, I think that might be a little bit kind of cheaper because I know sticky notes are expensive. Yeah, and there's something about handwriting too that is very good about getting people unstuck. I know I definitely turn to handwriting sometimes when I'm stuck or when I'm just not feeling very creative. It somehow lowers the stakes for me personally and just kind of makes it flow a little easier. A lot of times I'll do that with a side project when I'm very stuck on the main project. Yeah. And then I would say the main con to this one is just the expense. Getting stuff like stationery, collecting stationery can kind of become its own hobby. I know it's always fun to like geek out over highlighters if you're as nerdy as me. But it's not always beneficial. Sometimes it can also lead to what I would call procrastinating. I know I sometimes fall into that with my bullet journal because I track like my time, my tasks, my schedule, my plans, my dreams in my bullet journal. And sometimes I spend a little too much time doing that and not enough executing the plan. So there's definitely that aspect to it. And there's definitely a cost. And there's kind of like a storage issue. Maybe your desk will get messy. Yeah, so that's the kind of stuff you have to worry about with analog tools. And, you know, some of them are just kind of gimmicky. So it'll be like, I can't think of anyone specifically, but, you know, there will be like sticky notes shaped like ducks or something. And I don't know. It's just, there's a lot of overpriced novelties, I would say. Let me think beyond that. I'd put the next category kind of the I would like to add though, for like sticky notes and stuff like that, if you've not heard of a Kanban board, I think it came from like Japanese businesses and it was a way to track projects. So there's a to-do, a doing, and a done. I'm using a Kanban board right now, and I have sticky notes for 2 different writing projects. One of them I'm tracking scene by scene, and the other one it's kind of more generic, like by story beat. So it'll say stuff like break into 3 and midpoint. I'm finding that really motivating. So that is another pro, is just like having an external way to track progress, I guess. Yeah, but moving on to the digital version. So that's stuff like Notion, Monday.com, those kinds of like Google Calendar, whatever people are using. I tend to prefer analog. But they have kind of the same pros and cons, except you have the added thing of, are you actually going to check it? Yeah, I do use one called Pacemaker, and I do really like that. I don't have the paid version, but it really is a matter of, is this benefiting you? How is it benefiting you? Is it worth your time and energy? Or are you spending more time planning than doing? That's honestly the main thing with, I think, the digital trackers. And I don't know, some of them may have subscriptions and whatnot. And then my third category would be just like writing programs. So stuff like Scrivener, Aeon Timeline, Campfire, Noveler. I don't really know all of them. Just like whatever your go-to word processor is. I use Scrivener. I like it because of all the extra features and it was a one-time expense instead of a subscription. So I only paid, I think, $50 for it. I might have paid $25 actually. But, so there's always pros and cons to every program. Scrivener has a lot of features and it can be a little intimidating for newcomers. Microsoft Word is kind of well known. Lots of people use it. A lot of people using Google Docs. I would say that what you're actually, I mean, people will swear up and down that they could never imagine using a different program. I've written on a single program. I was thinking about this the other day. I use Scrivener. This is one that a lot of people, I already said I use Scrivener. This is one that a lot of people are like die-hard loyal to. And I am as well. I will admit that I am a Scrivener fanatic. But there is no such thing as a writing program that you cannot write without. If Scrivener poofed, I would just use something like Microsoft Word or Pages, or honestly, it'd probably be Pages. If you're super into the organization that Scrivener offers, you can always do like subfolders in your documents. So my point is, these programs are helpful, but they're not like the be all end all. You don't need them. You just need your brain and the blank page. That's all you need. That's all any writer has ever needed. Yeah. Next category. Editing programs. Now some people would probably put them in the same category. I'm calling them something different. This is stuff like Grammarly. I can't think of any others right now. But all these ones you see advertised, a lot of them have kind of some major AI features. Personally, I wouldn't use one. I think it's important to kind of learn how to edit your own work. And then if it still needs editing, which it will, humans are a good choice. You can have critique partners. That's where you kind of trade with someone else and you each do the same service for each other. Well, usually that's just critique, but sometimes you can trade services. Like if you know how to design a book cover and they know how to edit, you might trade that service for that service. That's fairly common in the writing world. A lot of people want to save money. But yeah, you don't need to pay hundreds of dollars for like Grammarly or the others, which I can't remember their names right now. Plus, with the AI features, I would consider that a major drawback because like they recommend changes that a lot of times the tone changes are like really kind of drastic, and I haven't actually used them, but I've seen videos of them and I've read work that was updated through them, and they kind of come out sounding like a work email and like AI wrote them. That's assuming you're using all those features. Some people are just using it for like spell check and grammar check, and there's nothing wrong with that. Note of caution. And then I would put the last category, well, no, there's two more categories. So one is kind of the professional softwares that you might think that you need if you want to be a published author, especially if you want to be self-published. Personally, I purchased both Atticus and Vellum, and well, I did use both for different reasons. Like I did formatting for other people in exchange for money, so I did that freelance for a while, and it's definitely easier with a program like that, but honestly, like if you write in Microsoft Word, you can format in Word. Technically, you can format in Scrivener. That's a little more like complicated, but you can do it. And then a lot of publishing websites will actually have a way for you to format on their website. Like, I think Ingram has one maybe. There's a lot of them out there that are just free ways to do it. You don't need formatting software. Personally, I think Vellum is worth the money if you can afford it, but yeah, Atticus and Vellum are both decent programs, but they're not necessary. That's my whole point. There's stuff like Publisher Rocket, which I think is a good thing. I think if you have the money for it, it's great. I don't have the money for it, so I don't have it. I'm fine. Yeah, it's just stuff like that where it's like there's all these programs people keep telling you about, and none of them are absolutely necessary. Brass tacks, down to the wire. All you need is you, a word processor, and your story. And then the last category that I wanted to talk about is one that I don't think people think about that much. It's just kind of professional development. So a lot of people will attend conferences that cost a lot of money. They'll sign up for classes by other published authors. And I'm not saying I've never done that. I've done it a couple of times. One of those classes, honestly, fantastic. The other one, But yeah. I think it's possible to do professional development on your own with almost no expense. For instance, Brandon Sanderson has fantasy lectures online. Those are really good. I think they're called the BYU lectures. He's done it a couple times, so he updated the playlist or put up a new playlist or whatever. You can use your library or purchase books. So I definitely would recommend that. Read craft books, read fiction, read everything. It's just, don't feel like you have to buy everything. Don't feel like you're behind if you can't attend a conference. It is okay to be an author with a low budget. That is a thing that exists. Eventually, you'll get there, maybe, hopefully. I'm definitely in that boat where I'm trying to build a career, but I'm doing it with a small budget. Probably more than some people. Honestly, I'm very blessed in that way. Just that I could afford to hire a cover designer. That was the main thing that I was not budging on. And I bought ISBNs and I started a business. But none of that is necessary. There are free ISBNs. But they're like, you just have multiple editions of your book, essentially. It's not as big of a deal as it sounds like. And that's the whole point. That's the whole point of the video. You don't need to worry. A lot of these things, like, there's benefits, but none of them are necessary. And in some ways, honestly, like, a lot of stuff influences the way you write more than you think it would. So sometimes there actually is a benefit to it literally just being you and a blank page. So that's where I'll leave it. Thanks for watching, and let me know what you think about this, what your experience with various writing tools has been. Are there any I didn't mention that you think I should have? And please tell me about them. And what are you calling yourself? Are you a writer? Are you an author? Are you a reader with a writing habit?